views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Welcome to Moments of Strength. I'm your host, Mary Kaufman. In this show, we celebrate the incredible resilience of mothers, showing up through life's challenges, growing through every triumph, and carving out space for their own passions and identity. We are here to uplift and reassure every mom that you are not alone, and asking for help is a powerful strength. Each episode brings a new story of motherhood's beautiful chaos. I'm happy you can join us for today's inspiring journey. And today's guest is Tricia. Tricia, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate that. This is our second episode of our second season. So you're helping us kick that off.
All right.
So it's exciting.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to have you here. And it's actually been a while since I saw you. I think it was maybe just coming out of COVID, we went and had lunch.
Yeah, I think so.
And I haven't seen you since then, so
I
it's
know.
so nice to have space with you.
Yeah, it's nice to be here.
So this show really is aimed at uplifting moms and giving space to discuss motherhood and how we got here and what we're doing now. A lot of the work that I do with moms is remembering how to be an individual and also a parent. So sacrificing ourselves for our kids, but not so much that we forget who we are. So a lot of times the conversation will involve how moms remember to do that. Mm-hmm. But then also those moments that help you remember why you get up every day and why you show up for your kids every day, and sharing life stories and examples for other people who might be watching. Mm-hmm. So that's the aim of the show. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a mom.
Mm-hmm.
I am a stepmom.
Mm-hmm.
I am, I was a foster mom, and then we adopted 3 children.
Yes.
And so I am a stepmom to 5 children. So
yes.
My husband had 5 children from his previous marriage, and then the last 3 we adopted through foster care. So our youngest is 10 and our oldest is 26.
A wide range.
Yes. So it's been an experience.
I'm sure it's not a typical road, but as we know, everybody has their own path. So that's very interesting. So a stepmom to 5.
Yes.
And when you became a stepmom, were they young or?
The youngest at the time was 6, and the oldest was 14, 15. So, and you know, I went into it. I mean, I loved my husband, and I'm like, oh, I could do this.
Sure.
It was hard. It was.
I
mean, until you're in it, you know, and you're doing the work, and knowing when to step in, to step out, to let him, I mean, it's just a whole different dynamic, because I grew up with a mother and a father who had been married until my mom died. She died when I was 28.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what I knew. I knew the nuclear family.
Did you have siblings as well?
I had 2 brothers. I have 2 brothers,
okay.
yes.
And they're older than you? Or?
I have 1 older and 1 younger.
Okay.
So
3 kids, parents stayed together. And so then you meet someone, fall in love, and take on this role as stepmom. This is interesting. We haven't talked sort of in depth about that experience, and everybody's experience with that is different. But you know, I'm happy to have you discuss that, because a lot of people are in that position, and I think a lot of common challenges come up, and everybody's having their own detailed challenges. But just that thing you talked about, knowing when it's your time to parent, and so many things play into that.
Yeah, and there were some times I just had to step back and be like, okay, this is your thing. You need to, handle this. Whereas if it were our biological kids, we would both be engaged and involved in it. And I read every step parenting handbook possible that was out there, once I was kind of in the fray. And I'm like, okay, this is hard.
Right.
And I think it was almost a godsend that I didn't know
Right.
what I was getting into, because if I knew, that I would still have married my husband, but I think it would have, just maybe caused me to question a little bit more. But I went in with the mindset of, kind of what my family was like and how it, and not that we didn't have issues growing up, or my parents, we had some, we dealt with, different things, but there were times where, and I guess it's also too, just my husband is very mellow and kind of laid back, and I'm a little bit more high strung, and I'm like, we got to fix this now, we got to do this now, and so I needed to chill out a bit, and it was hard for the kids, it's someone new is coming into the home and
has some authority, instant.
Yeah.
You have some because you're an adult there, and so they kind of have to adjust to that, and there's a lot of unknowns there for how they're gonna react to you, and then how you're gonna navigate that, and so that's, and 5 of them and 1 of you, and so that is.
And from what I've heard, though, is that it's actually easier to come into a marriage with kids if you come with your own kids.
Oh, sure.
Because you already have, I didn't have
parenting
children,
experience.
and I didn't have parenting. I was a teacher for years, but that's it's very different.
Sure.
And kids get to go home at the end of the day, and, and I'm not dealing with, some of the same issues you do as a parent. So, yeah. But
yeah, so you had to learn that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And kids don't know that. They think parents, I think fundamentally they think parents are just know things. And so you kind of have to behave as though you know things.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you realize it until you're an adult, like kind of how hard things were for your parents.
For sure.
Or, and as a kid, they think you know everything. You've got this all figured out. You've got this half the time. We don't.
No,
we're just flying by the seat of our pants sometimes. And so,
I think now that we're discussing that, I think that is even different now because kids have access to information all the time, so they can immediately invalidate something that you say just by looking it up.
Yeah.
And so, but back when you were stepping into this role, that wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So, but maybe even more difficult now, even with your own kids, to blend together and exude some. I don't want to say authority. People think maybe that's hard, but you do have to have some of that, and you're calling the shots, and maybe what you're saying can be disputed.
Yeah.
With knowledge they can access. So. Anyways, so that's a tough thing. So how long after that did you decide to foster? Or how did that come about?
Well, I knew I wanted children, and my husband and I tried naturally to have kids, and it just didn't pan out for us.
Sure.
So my husband had, in his previous marriage, had fostered very briefly.
Okay.
They took in one child for a weekend, and that's always something that he has wanted to do. He was not a big brother, big sister, but what did he do? Something through the courts where he would monitor, he would hang out with a at-risk child.
Okay.
Go into the home, and then he would report to the guardian ad litem and
Got it.
you know, how his life is, or what's working, what's not. And so I knew I wanted to have children, so I'm like, let's give this a try. And we had the option of not, so you get a call, you get a phone call from the foster care system, and you can deny a placement if you don't feel it's a good fit for you.
Okay. And this can be at any hour of the day.
This can be at any hour of the day. I think I got a call at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, was working at the time, but I'm like, well, let me call Brian and let me, you know, see if this is a good fit for us, and I'll call you back. And so we had 2 calls prior to that, and it just wasn't a good fit. So we declined those placements, and then the first placement we got 2 kids, 2 and 4, and I had to pick them up by 4. And Brian's at work, and I'm like, on the way home, Brian, you need to pick up pajamas.
I was going to ask.
You need to get toothbrushes. You need to, because they didn't come with anything at that point, and their stuff was arriving later. And so we started with the 2, and it was a lot.
It was a lot.
I mean, you get a 2 and a 4-year-old and all at once, and you don't have 9 months to prepare, and it's just like, boom, here they are.
They don't know you. You don't know them.
Nope. And they're,
show
so
up.
I'm working. I'm like, okay, now I need to figure out the childcare piece. I need to navigate that. They're not sleeping at night because it's a new environment for them. And so I'm not sleeping. And I remember, you know, standing in the kitchen with my husband, and we had finally gotten the kids to bed. And this was maybe 2 weeks in that we had them. And so I said to him, I'm like, how do you think things are going? And he's like, great. And I just like lost it and broke down and started crying. And I'm like, I can't do this. And I just needed to vent.
Yes.
And he's like, well, quit. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just because it's hard doesn't mean I'm going to give up and I'm going to quit. And I think that's, you know, I found my strength in God, you know, praying, you know, help me through this, help me guide me through this, because it wasn't, there's no playbook, you know, and it's not that there is for any kind of motherhood. You're kind of, you know, navigating it as you go, and you're learning as you go. And but this is a little different in regards to, you're also dealing with an outside influence like the biological family, and trying to navigate that and just make everything work. And there are a lot of things I would have done differently, but that was our first placement, and I didn't know any different.
Right.
And
you're just doing the best you can with what you know and what you have, and trying to do it in the best interest of the kids and your family. Were any of the other kids still living at home at that time?
Yes.
Okay, so
almost
you had
all
older kids.
I think all of
goodness.
them were. And
okay, so now you have 7.
So yes.
Okay.
So 8, 5 and 3. Oh no,
but
5
you
and
just
2.
had the 2.
Okay, yes, we just got the 2 first.
Right.
So probably 4 months later is when they're siblings. So they're all biological siblings.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
So
So now you're stepmom, foster mom, and it's a lot of moving parts. And your husband works.
Yeah.
So does he leave the house and go to like a job?
Well, prior to COVID, he did.
Yes. Okay. So it's
day.
you at home.
Yep.
And then navigating the schedules and the
and
transportation.
Yeah, and I was working in Madison at the time. Our younger children joined our family.
Okay.
And then I had to quit that job because the commute was too much, and I found a job here in Sun Prairie.
Okay.
So I was working part-time, I would say.
Okay.
And so
like, what were mornings like, on a school day? Do you remember?
Because there was so much like extra, I feel like turmoil involved with raising. Like I look back and I'm like, I don't remember.
It's kind of like a blackout.
It is. And I'm like, I wish I had, knowing what I know now, and I wish I had one of those days back just because I could enjoy it a little bit more. But there is just a lot of moving parts with foster kids because I was running them to visits. I was running them to, or I was, I had meetings with the social workers. And so there's just a lot of people coming in and out of your life. And it's a little crazy. And
don't you think so much of, being a parent is the maintenance, the schedules and making sure everybody's getting where they need to be on time, or that they have what they need, or they forgot their water bottle, or, they have an activity after school. And it's hard not to be so caught up in the logistics of things and remember that, like, to sit down for a minute, or even with the kids, to sit down and enjoy them for a minute. And there's, in a scene like that, there's no time for you to be like, I'm just going to, regroup. For a minute. It's just harried and
it is
chaotic.
It is. And so, but, learned a ton about myself and what I'm capable of, and found, different areas that, I thought I couldn't do this, or, and I'm stronger than I realize, and but, that strength, though, I can't do it without God, and I mean, prayer helps me get through those tough moments, and So.
When women come on here and talk about their journeys, they talk about different things that help them get through those most difficult moments. And so for some it's faith, for some it's music, for some it's all different kinds of things. Do you think, and usually I ask this at the end if it comes up, but do you think that moment in the kitchen 2 weeks in was sort of a defining moment for you about your strength and who you could be as a parent?
I know myself, and when something really hard is thrown in front of me, and I feel kind of just desperate and just run down, and like, and someone tells me, quit. That's when I'm like, no. I'm like, and I remember calling my brother as well when we were going through, we had just got the kids, and he said the same thing to me. And I'm like, you don't have to do this.
Right.
Quit. And I'm like, no. I'm like, and I got mad. Like, I'm like, no, that's, I just need to be able to vent. And,
right.
But I think I needed to hear that too. Like, I needed for someone to say, this is a choice.
You're making the choice.
You don't have to do this. And that kind of lifted some of the weight off, but also I'm stubborn, and I'm like, no.
Right.
Can't tell me I'm not going to do this,
Right.
So, yeah.
So that lifting, that sort of burden lifting, comes so much with ownership, and this is another thing that comes up on the show or even, when I'm talking to other people in a life coaching scenario or something like that, it's when you own it, then you have more control over it. So if it isn't your choice, then you're at the mercy of whoever is, at the helm of what's going on. So you have to do what they say, or you can't have relief till they say, or till they take it from you. But in those moments where somebody says you can quit, one, I don't think you were looking for an out. That's the other thing is, it's not like looking for an out. It's more like looking for I know I can do this. I've taken this on. I want someone else to say, you can do this. You've taken it. I need that support. I just need some validation in like what my choice is. And when that comes, you'll know, if someone says quit, maybe that is what you should do. Not in this scenario. But you need somebody to say that so you can remember that. Okay, wait, no. I want to quit. I want to do this. This is my choice. And then it allows you to manage it, because now you have to tell yourself, well, okay, I chose this. So where am I going to go from here? Just so much relief comes from that, I think.
Yeah, it does.
Do you feel like when you were young, we didn't talk much about this, but growing up, did you have moments like that? Were you that kind of person as a child that could come up against something and be like, no, I'm going to do this? Or not so much, more as an adult?
Both. I think my mom nicknamed me Wild Banshee.
Oh.
Yeah. So because, I think I just had it. She said when I was a toddler, I would get so mad at someone, I would just charge like my siblings with my mouth open, like I was going to bite them.
Oh,
So she.
That's threatening.
Yeah. So she would know to, get in between us. But she knew it was coming, because I would start from across the room. And,
like a rev up.
But yes, I just had this kind of fire in me. And but I've also had moments, too, where I've given up on things. And I wish I would have followed through. So, there's definitely two different kind of sides to me. Like, but when it comes to family and kids and marriage, that's something I will not, give up on.
Right.
It's, so, I don't know. I think I was scared as a kid a lot, just that prevented me from trying new things. So, I met my husband later in life. I was 37, and we got married, and I think that part of me kind of prevented me from at one point, I was like, by the time I'm 24, I'm going to be married, and I'm going to have 4 kids. And I had this kind of laid out, but 2, I've also kind of felt overwhelmed by the world, and and building up my confidence was a big part of, I think why it took me so long to, find my husband and find the right, person. There were lots of, people along the way that weren't a good fit, and thank God, because there's this saying that, the things that have happened in your life has gotten me to you, gotten me to where I am, today. And there's reasons why, those things didn't come to fruition. And thank God that they didn't.
Well, and some of that is listening to yourself, you know, and being sort of authentic, or recognizing who you are and being able to admit that maybe this isn't it. Because some people will have a plan to be married and have 4 kids by 24, and then, that could all fall apart. But they stuck to their plan, and so, they forced something to fit without really digging in and saying, is this what I fundamentally want? Does this match who I am inside? And we're all sort of on that journey. So if you're not listening to yourself, you can make a lot of decisions that don't quite fit with who you are in total. So now, it was 37, but instead of 4, you got 8.
Oh, I know.
And so,
I know.
In abundance.
Yeah.
You know what you wanted. So.
Yeah. And I think God put you right where He wants you to be. So, yeah. And this is where I needed to be. So
up until 37, were you, can you walk us through a little bit of that? Just timeline-wise, did you go to school? Did you work?
I did. I went to school. I spent a lot of time in education.
Me too.
Out of high school, I got my associate's degree in child development.
Okay.
And and that's another part of like, oh, I'm an early childhood teacher. I can, you know, I can be a step parent. I can, you know, I can. It's completely different. And then after that, I worked for a bit in early childhood. While I did that, I got my certification as a massage therapist.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So I did that while teaching, kind of on and off for 10 years. And then I went back again, got my bachelor's degree in studies and education. At that time, my mom was sick. And
you did mention that.
so I had not completed my student teaching. That's really the only piece of that. And so I went to my counselor and I said, I don't know what this looks like for my mom. So I'm like, what can I get with, you know, the classes that I had? So I got a degree in studies and education. I could still teach in early childhood. I just couldn't teach in the public schools.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then went and I moved back in with my mom and dad for a bit to help with my mom. And then my mom died when I was 28. And then again, I went back and got a post-bac degree in child life. So I could work in a hospital setting with kids.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep. So that's kind of my education, you know, path that I've taken. And now I'm currently not working. You know, I'm trying to navigate my younger kiddos and get them through school.
It is
and
working, but it's just not being employed by someone else.
But then there is that, you know, as a stay-at-home mom, I'm not doing enough. There are a lot of things that I want to do. I want to, I want to write a book. I want to
do it.
I know, and I'm very much a homebody, and so when I get kind of in my cozy place, you know, I think the motivation kind of, you know, slips.
Well, comfort does that.
Yeah.
You know, we like to be comfortable. It doesn't mean we don't have aspirations and, you know, dreams and things we want to do. Also, I just want to scoot back a minute. I'm not trying to like bypass the whole thing with your mom. You know, I want to acknowledge that. And, you know, that's a very difficult thing to go through. So I just don't want to be, you know, as you're talking about it. So, and thinking about the degrees you got or the education you pursued, I mean, it all is just kids. Like everything is kids. When you were young, did you babysit? Was there a draw to kids?
I babysit a lot. I always mapped out. I remember when I was young, I mapped out my classrooms.
Oh, yes.
Like, and I had like a corner for animals. I had like, you know, and it just, I remember on the graph paper, like creating like little spaces.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, classroom spaces. So, yeah, but also, you know, finding what I really love about, you know, teaching. And it's, I think as I've taught, it's just gotten harder and harder, especially with young kids, and there's just more politics involved in the classroom and the rules and the regulations, but also more kids, and just you're dealing with a lot more issues. And so I'm trying to hone in and find out or figure out like what it is that I really loved about teaching. And I think it is like creating curriculum or designing curriculum.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So for younger kids. And so I'm trying to do something with that right now. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but I'll let you know down the road. And so.
Well, I think, you know, there's a lot to be done there, you know, just talking about the schools, and, you know, I try not to get into the politics of that, but just if we talked about schools as they are today and what we've witnessed, you know, you have plenty of research participants living in your home
Yep.
to give you feedback and experiences. And same with me. It's become something where I think teachers become teachers for a reason. They want to impact children. They want to take the knowledge they have and impart that on kids so that kids can grow and learn and become positive contributing members of society, doing the best they can with what they have. Doesn't mean you have to fit in a box, but they want to nurture and provide and love and care for kids. And the system currently, it's difficult to do that because much of what you're doing is managing to expectations that sometimes feel overwhelming and unrealistic and don't include or cater to children in the ways that they need.
Yeah. I agree.
And there aren't enough resources to sustain that expectation and allow teachers to teach for the reasons they got into it in the first place. And so there's room for you to create resources for moms who step into a role as a step parent and have kids and maybe need a little guidance, not telling them what to do, but it's a support. Or parents, like we have watching this show that just became a mother. I think there's just so much room for guidance there. There are so many women who find themselves as parents and really genuinely did not understand what that means, or the requirement to show up, or the selfless acts you have to do, or the fact that your baby or toddler is not an adult and you want to interact with it as an adult, it does not know what you're saying. So there's a lot of room there for that. And you can do all of that from the comfort of your home.
Yeah, I know.
You can design that from there.
And I think summers are my busy season because my kids are home. And that's more when have less time, of my own. And then, but during the school year, I mean, unless my kids are sick, they're gone all day and things come up, granted, but, I got to run a dog to the vet but I do have some time and I have to take that,
Yeah, I know. It's hard though. It's hard to
when you're
get going.
Yes, and when you're at home, you're always like, oh, that load of laundry can't wait.
For sure.
I gotta take care of that. So you get kind of pulled away or distracted, or So it's finding. You got to be disciplined almost, and okay, I'm going to allot this amount of time for this here, and I would not be a good person. Like my husband works at home now, and he can do it. He sits down at his desk and he cranks away, and he doesn't get distracted. I sometimes distract him, but
you're like the laundry.
But he sits down and works away, and he can do it. He prefers to work at home, and whereas some people just need that office space to hone them in and keep them focused. And
it's like a horse, It's like you have to put those on. Honestly, you're not a horse, but like that is the kind of I do the same thing, and especially if I have something I know. I'm working on my dissertation, so I need to do edits, and I am driven. I am very interested in my topic. I am mental toughness and motherhood. Like, excuse me, I do like talking about that all the time. But making myself go sit down to re-immerse myself in that project, something is so daunting about that. So the house is very clean on those days. Several meals have been made. The laundry is caught up, and the computer is still over there, sort of like keeping an eye on me. It's just the moment has to strike. But if I sit down and start, I'll read it and just say like, what? This is so good. Like, this is good. Sometimes I don't even remember, like, did I write that? And then I get immersed. But if someone else is home or someone comes home, if
kids are at home
Yes.
And I want to try to carve out a little niche to work. Like, if I want to go to the bathroom, for some reason, they know.
Oh, it's a radar. Yeah.
It's a radar. They know, okay, Mom's in the bathroom. I got to go ask her this most important question. You know, and that someone came to the door the other day. I was in the shower, and my daughter comes and knocks on the door, and they're like, "So-and-so's at the door." I'm like, "Well, what do they want?"
I'm in the shower.
Like, I can't.
Tell them to come in. It's like,
Yes, I
sure.
know. What do I say? And so I talked with them after. I'm like, just tell them I can't come to the door. You don't need to come in up to the bathroom. You know I'm in the shower. You know, what am I going to do? Run down in my towel?
Yeah. I'll go to the window.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm very distracted if other kids or if other people are there, and the kids also would like for me to go work on that so they can be left alone, because when they're there, you know, I want to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on with their friends. I want to know what happened in school. I'm sometimes way more distracting than they are. And a lot of it is interest in them, and some of it is distracting myself from other tasks. But yeah, and then I have this thing where, you know, existentially, I'm like, we only have a short amount of time, and the kids are here, and I have time to do that, and I can do the other thing later, you know.
Yeah.
That would take no time at all if I really. And so I try to use that time just for that human interaction too. Plus, if you work from home, same, you kind of crave like a human connection. And if you're somebody who's homebody and maybe doesn't, you know, go out and be in groups all of the time. And I enjoy time by myself too. You know, you want that human connection. And if it shows up at your door and it's your kids, well,
then
put the other stuff aside.
Yeah.
So.
And I look around, and sometimes, you know, you're like, oh, the place is a mess, and but then, you know, I look at that mess and I'm like, it's not going to be like that forever. And it's, so just let it go and, you know, enjoy it. And I used to clean like mad before people would come over, and now I'm just like, okay.
I know, you're so good. I'm not like that. I'm just like, who's coming? Your friend is coming? Like, we got to get this place. I don't know. It's just something about, well, and now everybody has a phone too. So if you're taking a picture of my house, like, I don't want that stuff out of order in the background.
Yeah.
So that's an opportunity area for me, definitely. But yeah, and when the kids were little too, and this is for moms who are, I see so many things on, you know, just social media of moms who are feeling overwhelmed, or they'll like show their living room. And I mean, I do remember just, you can't even wade through the number of toys or just whatever happened out there, and feeling overwhelmed about that. But I really think, honestly, from 0 to 5, like, lower the expectation. The toys are coming out again. It doesn't mean to live in filth or dirt or a mess. And you can tackle that a little bit of the room at a time. You know, maybe they don't have to play with every area of the room, or you can develop something with that. But I think time with your kids, quality time with your kids, where you're not looking at your phone, they're not looking at a screen. I think sometimes moms don't realize that, like, they could just crawl on you, and that's just way more entertaining and
or a box
valuable.
Or a pot. You know, they don't need half the toys they have.
No.
You know, simplify, you know, and make life easier for yourself.
Or just eye contact. When they're real little, just ate contact and talking. And sometimes they'll wiggle around and they don't, I mean, don't rigidly force them to, you know, stare at you. But like just those moments together where you're not distracted, it's way better than taking 100 toys out.
Yeah.
So, there's just thinking back too of, you know, how stressful that could be. That probably could be alleviated a little bit by understanding some of this too.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now how old are the 3 youngest that are with you?
10, 12, and 15.
Okay. So they were so little when you and I met.
I know.
Yeah.
And I look back, I get these, you know, those flashbacks on your phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you know, I wish I remembered it a little bit better.
I know, same.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for photos and videos.
I know. And it's, you know, especially photos, because, you know, they're just so young, and so all that baby, and I missed out on the first part of their life, so you know, there's that longing.
Yeah, it would have been fun to know, you know them so well now, obviously, and caring for them and loving them for so many years. And you wonder, you know, what was that like? Or that would have been fun to be able to be witness to that too.
Yeah, yeah. So, but one thing I would like to do is write a book about adoptions. And so my mother, I found out when I was 16, she was adopted.
Oh my gosh.
By her aunt.
Oh.
But I always knew her as Grandma. And, you know, I always thought it was her biological mom. And then I've done a little digging in regards to, because we know who her biological mom is, but not her biological father. So just came up with a lot of kind of dead ends and just not a lot of info there. So there's that piece, but just as a foster parent and watching families then get to adopt and learning about their stories, and everyone is so unique and different, and I would love to be able to compile those stories. And
this is a beautiful idea.
Yeah. So that is on my radar. You know, I just need to sit down, you know, get something started. It does seem overwhelming, like I know nothing about publishing a book, or, you know.
I can help you.
How do you go about doing
that? That's why
we're
here.
Yes. So it's, and I think when we sat down and had lunch, I think I was talking about it back then, and that was a couple years ago. So I'm still talking about it. So how do I then make that, turn that into action, you know? And not
Well, it
just
takes
talk.
time, for sure. Speaking of publishing, I published children's books, but I wrote my first children's book when my daughter was in 4K, so she was 4, and I published it finally when she was 13.
Okay.
So I didn't do anything with it until she was like 12, but it was there, just sort of there. And I was just talking to a friend about this yesterday. It's like I plant things that are foreshadowing in my life, like in a movie, you know? And then just one day I'm like, it circles back.
Yeah.
That was one of those things. And then that led to, once I understood the system, which was very daunting, and self-publishing, but that was during COVID too. So I had a little bit of time to look into that. And then I wrote 4 more. So it's just the first step. So something like, you know, stories of adoption, it's one story at a time, you know, and they will add up. Like once you get going, and if you're passionate about it, you know, you'll start to crave that every day in your, but I think that's a great idea. And I just wanted to circle back to this discovery you made. So you were 16?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can vividly remember sitting on my bed. She sat me and my 2 brothers down, and she's like, I got something to tell you. And I'm just like thinking, well,
what is it?
We're going on a trip. What? And she's like, well, Grandma's not your real grandma. Or I don't know exactly how she phrased it, but, you know, we didn't care.
No.
You know,
well, it's 16.
Yeah. And,
really.
And that's who I knew as my grandma. And but I have connected with, so my mother has a half brother.
Okay.
And we met them at the funeral when my mom died.
Okay.
But she had also my mom had done a lot of research because she needed a partial stem cell transplant. And the best matches are children, which we were not a match. So then you farm out to siblings.
Okay.
She didn't have any full biological siblings. She had a half brother, so she reached out to him, and you have a test done.
Okay.
They draw. I can't remember what it was. It's been so long. If they draw blood or what to determine, or stem cells. Maybe it's actual stem cells that they draw. But yeah. So, but no matches. No matches. So, yeah.
And was that when you first met her half brother?
I think at the funeral, and then as I after my mom had died, when I first met Brian, we drove to Sheboygan, where my mom grew up.
Okay.
And I did a little digging in regards to just wanting more information about who my mom's biological dad was.
Sure.
And so we met with him, and very nice guy, and we communicate periodically, just kind of around holidays, and very nice man, and it's a relationship lost. I think,
like a whole path.
Yeah. I wish, and he shared, some stories about his mom and like who she was, and.
So you never met your mom's real mom?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, and the aunt was your grandma was your mom's
older sister.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So, yep.
I lost track there for a
Yeah,
second.
I know.
I got it.
I have to sometimes when I'm talking about
like,
it. Like
older?
Yeah.
What did she say?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So
that's interesting because you adopted kids in your...
I know. And I wish my mom was here today. And I think...
Yeah, that is so hard.
she's missed out on... Because I had kids later. She's missed out on all that.
And they've missed out.
Yes, and they have missed out on her. But she's here. She's with me. She's guiding me, So I really believe that.
Yeah, well, you're part of her too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so now... Are the three youngest the ones left at home now? Everybody else is out, or no?
Yes, everyone else is
on their own.
2 are in college, 3 are in the workforce.
Okay.
So we've got them all over the United
Nice
States.
work.
We're going to Nashville in May for a college graduation. So, yep.
Okay, this is the next part of parenting. It's like, that was a lot when they were living at home. But now you're going on tour. I mean, now you're going on the road to keep up with everybody.
Well, we're trying to balance. Our 3 younger kids have a lot of sporting events, a lot of activities on the weekends, and now we're balancing that with traveling to visit older kids, graduations, moving kids in. And it's not like they're on the UW campus. We had one go to UW. That's it. Everyone else was,
like, see ya.
Yeah, they're all over the place, and which I love because you get to see places, and then our kids get to see different colleges, and you're not making this mad scramble at the when they're juniors and seniors to see all these college campuses, because by the time they get to that point, they've seen them all, and
the benefit for sure.
So they'll know what they like and don't like, and what they want to do, and so.
Do any of the older kids, are they married with kids yet, or no?
No, our first just got engaged. So
exciting!
Yes.
Another stage of parenting. This is great.
So next year,
Okay.
next March. No, next
Fun
June.
for you. Okay.
Will be the wedding. Yes, so that's very exciting.
That's super exciting.
I know.
Their wedding party is going to be.
We're going to keep it small.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot of siblings.
A lot of siblings. Yeah. So
that's exciting.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask too, I just thought of this. So when the 3 younger kids came into the house, were the older kids excited about that? Like, and not to be so personal about them, because this is really an interview with you,
Yeah.
not to, talk too much
I think
about them.
so, as much as they could be. I'm sure they had their doubts, and I think that's just a natural response for any kid. How are these new kids going to fit in with the family?
And attention being split, 8 ways now instead of 5, which already was a lot.
Yeah, so our older kids were with us 50% of the time. So there were times where it was just the younger kids. And then, but carving out those niches so the older kids, didn't feel like they were being left out or replaced, or so it was very important for Brian to, and me, to make sure that they, still had their individual times. I mean, there was just we were just pulled in a lot of different directions, and which is fine. I mean, you make it work, and but. So.
Well, and if you can convey, if you really love all your kids and you can convey that, that makes that a lot easier, because sometimes you don't have enough attention to spread out over however many kids in a 12 or 14-hour period while you're awake, and they're not even around that whole time. But if and when you are around them, if they can feel that from you, you have an interest in them, you love them, you want to support them, that helps that.
And I am so proud of the older kids, because, they stepped up. They were role models, and they still are. And, and they are so great with the younger kids, and I'm just proud of them.
And imagine all the, you're just little, and your life is topsy-turvy for whatever reason led to that. And you come into a home where, so many people love you. My gosh. They love you, they're examples, there's just a lot of bodies that, can help you or guide you or talk to you, listen to you, all. I mean, what a gift.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of love.
Yeah. Nice job. And I think really, there are a lot of people who maybe want to do that. Maybe you could talk just a little bit about that before we kind of wrap up. People who have been thinking about fostering or considering adopting. Do you have, since you want to do your book and everything, do you have anything you want to share about that? Guidance or insight or encouragement or?
I wish more people would foster. I felt like I wish there were more outlets of people supporting families while they're going through that, especially at the beginning.
People who are fostering, more supports for the people who are fostering.
Yes. Whether it's through the church or there are times where we just, especially right when we got the children, we had a trip already planned before we knew we were getting our children. So we didn't, and they were young, we didn't want to take them along on the trip, and everything was already, so we did work it out with, the foster care system, and there's something called respite, so they would go and stay, with the family for a week while, we went on our trip. And it's not, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not easy. It's not, there are definitely hard parts about it. But I think, I wish there were more families that fostered. And you don't always get to adopt the kids. I mean, you go into foster care knowing that the kids are going to go back.
It's temporary.
It's temporary. And that's something the social work system kind of instills in you from the get-go. Don't count on this being, and for some reason it worked out for us, and this was our first placement, and but it took a long time too. I mean, 4 5 years almost.
When we met, you were just sort of, I think, entertaining, or like that opportunity was coming up to
Yeah.
potentially adopt, but there was a lot to
Yep.
still do.
Yep. So, yeah, what was the question that you
Just
asked?
insight or encouragement, for people who are considering, I think emphasizing that it's temporary and it's difficult.
Yeah.
And
I think that scares people, and if anyone out there is thinking about doing this, you are stronger than you think you are, and it's so rewarding in the long run. I mean, is it hard? Yes, you're going to deal with some hard issues, some tough stuff, but yeah, I think people are definitely capable. And
I think I have not done that, but when I imagine it, and just the challenges that come with it and the difficulty and thinking about taking that on, and I think people are apprehensive because they're gonna love the kid, because if you're somebody who wants to help kids, it's not that hard to love a kid, and then to experience the loss of that. So it's temporary, and I think we go down a path where it's like, I could have done, so much, and it would have just been better if they stayed. And I can imagine these conversations you have in your head. But what also has to be recognized is that without it, children in the foster care system don't ever get a picture of what could be, or they don't get a relief for the weekend. They don't have a positive experience where somebody does love them, and maybe it is 48 hours and maybe it is hard, but then they've experienced that. And life really is about just experiencing things that are temporary anyway.
Yep.
So if you're a person who feels called or pulled toward doing that, it sounds like you should feel encouraged to do that, because you will be offering something positive to kids who may never experience that.
Mm-hmm. And I think they get to see life through a different lens, and especially depending on the situation they come from. Some are worse than others, and it provides them a little glimmer of hope, a little sense of hope, and maybe they can carry that with them and overcome down the road.
Yeah, you could be just contributing to somebody's resilience for the rest of their life by offering that. Yeah. And if they're babies, I mean, it's not, they wouldn't have a different lens, but they will maybe have a different sense of attachment. You could be contributing to that, or just that, I think just relief too, you're not just out there unattached, or you're not really uncertain as a baby consciously, but that feeling, could be offering
if a baby
that.
has never felt secure or safety, just having that for, however long, so, but part of that is also working with the biological family, and that can be a hard piece, harder than I think sometimes. Okay, the kids are here with me in this house. If I could just do that, and not deal with all these outside influences, and then, it would be a lot easier. But that's a part of them too. So you got to kind of figure out how to bring those two worlds together. Yeah.
And that's really up to you, because you're the conduit between both.
Yep.
So, and, respect for a mother who's a mother despite her, maybe she's in a horrific situation, and maybe she's made terrible decisions, and it isn't in the best interest of the child to continue to live there, sometimes, or the mother. She's still a mom too, and that isn't easy to, whether you understand it or not cognitively, or you have maybe you're addicted or something like that, you're still a mom.
Yeah.
And so to be separated from your kids on whatever level you understand parenting, that's challenging.
Yeah.
And then to be the person who is going to care for those children forever, and have to, still fold that in whatever capacity.
Yeah. So.
you're doing a good thing.
Well,
Yeah.
so did I convince you to foster?
I actually have like entertained the idea over time. And me saying that about the kids, you know, that's me. That's as much self-talk as it is for other people. So, yeah, there's a lot of kids that need a lot of things. And it's not just like saying like, I can't do that, because that affects all of us in some capacity.
Yeah.
So if you're not contributing in some way to that, either directly or indirectly, you're not helping the problem, and the problem is for all of us. So, so now your kids are in school. Everybody's in school. Everybody during the school year is busy during the day, and you're going to write your book.
I'm going to write my book. We did, in the last couple of years, we added 2 dogs to the family, so that's been an adventure.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I think it's been good for the kids, just that nurturing aspect.
Yes, unconditional.
Yes, it brings that out. But yeah, I'm going to write that book, and yeah.
You've said it here. It's
I know it's
now.
out there now.
So
everyone I encounter from this point on is going to be asking me, how's the book coming?
Yeah, and if you have stories you want to contribute, this is a way to do that.
Yeah, I just got to sit down, figure out the format, and what that's going to look like. And
yeah, I think you'll be doing a service for people to understand, you know, just that path in life too.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so before we wrap up, do you have anything else we didn't cover that you would like to share with moms about just motherhood or parenting, kids, anything that we've discussed or maybe we didn't hit on? Advice, any suggestions, anything like that?
Oh, I don't know.
I know. I like to put everybody on the spot at the end.
You know, I've always sought perfection. And I think that's why it took me a little longer to get married, because, that person doesn't check off this category, this category, and this category. And my brother has pointed that out in many instances to me. You know, no one's perfect. But also I think that carried over for me into motherhood, that perfection and wanting to look a certain way, and this is what it should look like, and learning to let go and just be like, okay, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what this is going to look like, but just, you know, give me the strength to carry through. And so.
And having some humility to understand, you know, perfection it's not realistic.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yep.
Because there will always be something. So I don't think it's necessarily bad to strive for doing something really well. But you're right about the perfection thing, because you will paralyze yourself, you know, and maybe not take the leap. And what's interesting about that is you put yourself in total chaos.
Yeah.
So for somebody who, you know, strives for perfection, you're like, let's take on, you know what? I haven't been challenged enough.
I know.
To go into this total chaos.
But
it's turned out. So you're striving for something great has worked out, you know, but to admit nothing's perfect.
Yeah. I often say, quote, who's the singer, but when trying to corral kids and get them into the car, you know, all aboard the crazy train.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Ozzy.
Thank you. Ozzy Osbourne. Yep. And that tune always pops in my head,
Yeah.
because it's just like, you know,
It's wild.
It's wild. It is. So.
But would you have it any other way?
No. But I think that was, you know, God's plan. He knew that I longed for perfection. He knew that, you know, I sought that out, and he's like, no, you're not going to have this, and you're going to learn and grow from not having this, you know, this is, you know, and I have, and
it's not really living, you know, unless you get out there and get dirty and get messy and get in the chaos. That's when when things kind of feel most alive. And if you can overcome those things too, but then generally as humans, we invite ourselves right back into it because we want to feel that, you know, we want to feel that turmoil to some degree.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
so you've done a nice job of that too.
I don't know, but
yeah, this is great.
yeah.
Okay, so we're going to have you back on when you
Write my book.
a book to promote. No, but really, I mean, you have a lot of insights and experience that I think that would benefit. I'm not going to pressure you to do it, but support is a better word. You know, if you have the time, a little bit at a time.
Office manager or something.
Oh, I need an assistant so
assistant
bad.
to be like, okay,
so bad.
you've got,
You can share one.
Tuesday and Wednesdays, you're going to block out this time.
Yeah.
They need to, create. I've got my kids' schedules down. I've got, you know, occasionally I'll show up at the wrong place, but at the wrong time. But
Oh my gosh, me too. Me too.
so, yeah. But,
Whoops.
yeah, other than that, I've got, for the most part, I got my, you know, kids' schedules down, and that's my focus. That's like, okay, if I can get you to from point A to point B,
Yes.
you know,
Just do a little bit, like 15 minutes.
I know.
Just a 15 minutes. It's not too much to ask of yourself. And even you don't have to go sit down to do it. Stand at the kitchen counter and for 15 minutes just stand there with a piece of paper and just jot down, like, you know, whatever you think about it. And once you do that, you know, you'll want to do that again. It's kind of like working out.
Yeah.
Listen, no one wants to initially get on the treadmill, go for the run, pick up the weight. You don't want to, but you get in there and you do it one day, and the next day you're like, well, you know, and then eventually that becomes a thing.
I'm trying to working out back into my routine, and so I went for the first time yesterday morning, and you know, I started with 40 minutes. I'm like, I can build on it, but you know, I'm like, and I feel it today. I'm sore, but you know,
Good job. Yeah.
yeah,
That's the reward, is feeling sore.
yeah.
Because then you know you did something.
I know.
So,
I love that feeling.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good job. That's great. Okay. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so happy to catch up with you after all this
I
time.
know.
That was good. And share your story with everybody. So thanks to Tricia for coming on. Remember to keep your perspective, but don't forget to step into somebody else's once in a while and share their experience. Show up every day, continue to get up and show up for yourself and your kids, even when it's hard. Pursue those goals, get into the chaos, the messiness, and experience that. And you're in a group of about 2 billion of us worldwide. So as a mom, you are not alone, and we are here for you. Thank you.